Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. I'm your host, Les Winston, and I'm also the national spokesperson for Secharity.org. That is a project of the Endow American Network Foundation. And just a little history of the Endow American Network Foundation. It was originally the Advisors in Philanthropy Foundation, started in 2008. And we decided to rename it because our project was much greater than just about advisors in philanthropy. It includes advisors in philanthropy, but it doesn't only restrict ourselves to that group. We are looking to make the public aware of charitable giving, and social charity is the way to identify what we're doing. As Route 664 refers to the section of the tax code that deals with social charity giving, and the advisors in philanthropy, the professional philanthropic advisors, are individuals who can help you along that path, who can help you along the road to human kindness. Originally, when the Advisors in Philanthropy Foundation started, it was offering scholarships to folks to become professional philanthropic advisors, to get their designation from the American College, the Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy designation. And we have as our guest this morning one of those scholarship recipients, Barbara Auten. Barbara, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. We finally have some sun here in Baton Rouge.
Good. Barbara is the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association or Society?
Alzheimer's Services of the Capital Area.
Okay, Alzheimer's Services in the Capital Area. What does that mean, the services in the capital area?
We're located in Baton Rouge, and we serve the 10 parish or county area around the Baton Rouge city. So about a third of the state we serve.
Okay. And you have a 30-second elevator speech?
Well, we provide education and support for Alzheimer's caregivers, individuals affected, and the professional caregivers. And we also have 2 respite centers that provide day care for the affected individuals and allow their caregivers a break.
Good. This disease, this problem that a lot of folks suffer from, is there a research that's showing that there's a cure in sight, or what is the progression of this? How is the the medical community dealing with Alzheimer's right now?
Well, there's been a recent approval of the Biogen drug. And there's pros and cons to that. It's a very expensive drug. It's the first drug that's come out since 2003. 1 in 9 over the age of 65 develops Alzheimer's. As we baby boomers age, we are going to see this population just tax Medicare to no end because it's a very long-lived disease. It averages 8 to 10 years. The new medication would cost about $56,000 a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if Medicare covers that and covers it for 1 in 9 over the age of 65, we're going to see a tremendous increase in the cost to Medicare. There's a lot of information coming about risk reduction. So for instance, my family developed the disease in their 80s. And the research showed that it really starts in your brain about 25 years before. So right now I'm 63. I'm being very conscientious about what I do in my status because I had so many family members who developed it in their 80s. So I am doing everything I can to reduce the risk.
And the funding of Medicare obviously is an issue on a national level. And you're talking about taxing it even more when this disease becomes more prevalent. So one of the things that, of course, we talk about here on the program is endowing America and endowing organizations so that organizations can handle what they need to handle without it coming from government. When you're out fundraising, and I just want to go back, you are a chartered advisor in philanthropy and one of the recipients of our original scholarships that we were giving out as advisors in philanthropy.
Absolutely. It was a great program.
And tell me how it's helped you with regard to your fundraising.
Well, it allows me to sit at the table with the donors to have that financial knowledge about the avenues that they can make gifts to philanthropy with good financial planning and leave a legacy, no matter how small or how big that could be. Even the middle class, even lower class people that earn just a little can make gifts to philanthropy if we plan for it. And that CAP certification gives me that right and knowledge to sit at the table with my donors.
And the in the Baton Rouge area, are there a lot of other advisors who have that ability, or are you trying to create more to work with?
We have a champion here in Baton Rouge, Frank MacArthur, who is a CAP and who was a financial advisor in insurance. He has personally paid for people to go through the class. There's only about 10 of us here in Baton Rouge that are certified that I know of. We keep trying to initiate a new class, but there just doesn't seem to be enough interest. And with COVID, it may be a little longer for people to come back and be interested and spend the money on that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the charitable intent or the charitable structure in the community, not too many people understand that they can benefit greatly by being knowledgeable philanthropists.
Right.
You find that pretty
That's very common.
Yeah, and is that a tough road to hoe? I mean, are you able to get people to understand that it benefits them to benefit charity?
Well, I think I've spoken to many financial advisor groups, and we are planting the seed with them to plant it with their clients, that if they want to leave a legacy, there's ways to do that. And so having a great relationship with the nonprofits, with the financial advisors, I've seen some results coming out of that. I know my own financial advisor now always talks to his clients about what kind of gift do you want to leave.
Leaving a legacy.
Right.
And so we've coined this phrase, social secharity, to identify 3 different forms of giving, which are the charitable remainder trust, the charitable gift annuity, and the pooled income fund, because they mimic Social Security, and that's why the names are very similar, in the sense that folks can create income for them to rely on later on, while also getting a better tax position, as well as leaving something behind. And when you look at the statistics around the country, there's only about 100,000 or more charitable remainder trusts. We're trying to increase that number by increasing the number of professional philanthropic advisors who understand how to do that. So you're in the charitable side, and is it more difficult for you to get into the nitty gritty with your clients with regard to that kind of planning?
Not really. When you bring it up, do you want to leave a legacy? How do you want to do that? Can I introduce you to someone who can help us with that? And then I can, if you don't already have a financial advisor, we have several that the organization works with in our financial literacy class. And if they take our financial literacy class, they can get 2 free hours with the financial advisor, so that they can start to think about it and start to see which avenues they might work best in for what they want to do.
So what is the financial literacy course? That's very interesting. What is that?
It's a financial literacy course for caregivers, so that they look at all of the things that impact them as a caregiver and how to plan out their finances so that the care of the individual they're caring for does not drain their resources, and that when that person passes, they have enough income to live on. So we want to make sure that it's very expensive to care for their loved one. Most of them want to stay at home. And so it's very costly, whether you put them in a nursing home or an assisted care facility. And most of them want to stay at home. And so how are you going to manage those finances? Maybe especially for the younger onset, they're in their 50s, they might retire early. How are you going to manage that income? And how are you going to take advantage of everything that is there for you? And so we go through all of the avenues that are ability to provide you with either saving income or reducing your costs. We'll go through all the Social Security, we'll go through Medicare, we'll go through financial literacy in the sense of how you can invest, how a financial advisor might help you. And so we bring all those things together over a 3-week period in 6 hours. And then if they take all 3 classes, they are entitled to a free either 2 hours with an attorney or 2 hours with a financial advisor that we will pay for.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's a great service to the people in Baton Rouge. And Barbara, I know that you're very dedicated to what you do. And what makes you get up every morning? What do you look forward to every day?
Oh, I love to come to work. I love what I do. I actually turned down this position 3 times. I didn't think I'd make a good executive, and they put me in here anyways, and I have loved it from day one. I love the people we serve, and I have 2 different kind of attitudes towards philanthropy and nonprofits. One, I think of a nonprofit as a business that doesn't pay taxes. Mm-hmm. So I run the organization like a business, and my profit is impact. And so I measure impact for everything so that I can make business decisions. And if a program is not producing what it needs to produce and we're putting too much money into it, we're going to let that program go. And we're going to invest in the programs that really have impact on our clients. And then secondly, I'm not in this just for Alzheimer's services. I am here to help make my community better. So if I can share my knowledge with other nonprofits, I will do that. I was at a luncheon the other day for another organization. They were doing recruiting for their fundraising. I technically cannot fundraise for another organization, but at the end of the luncheon, I asked, do you have a pooled challenge fund for this fundraiser? Mm-hmm. And they looked at me and said, what is that? Mm-hmm. So I said, well, if there were 20 of us in the room who committed to $1,000, you would have a $20,000 pool that could be matched to incentivize your guests. Well, before we left, there were 20 people in the room who committed to that $1,000, and they had that. And so that's how I can help the other organizations, is mentoring and allowing them the free knowledge that I've gained over 25 years of experience.
Barbara, it's a pleasure speaking with you. You're a marvelous steward of this concept, and we appreciate your caring and the way that you view this, and especially in the work that you're doing. It's very valuable. How can people support your organization?
They can come to our website, alzbr.org, and look us over. We just put a virtual tour online so that you can see who we are and what we do. We have a luncheon coming up if you're interested in coming and learning about us. It is a fundraising luncheon. It's free, and you can call the office. If we have extra seats, we'll put you in one. And you can get involved. You can volunteer. You can come and work with us, because we always want volunteers to engage and understand this disease so that more people become aware and are helpful and understand those people struggling with dementia.
Thank you again for joining us this morning, Barbara. This interview, by the way, will be replayed regularly on the website. There is a portion of our white paper which defines how we're going to get to this $30 trillion in support to NGOs, to the non-governmental organizations. And part of that, one part is voluntary social security, which is available now, and that's in the form of pooled income funds, charitable gift annuities, and also charitable remainder trusts. But the other part of it is an involuntary, a mandatory part. And we believe that there should be a first generation of young Americans who start to use social security as the new generation's social security. And it involves actually the idea of conscription, where we're trying to get young people to be part of our active society and become more involved in the community, more involved in how we can take care of things, how we can change the world for the better. And they can do that by creating or having created for them a social charity account. My guest today is Amy Brand, and Amy deals with students and deals with sustainable gifts and an entity called Philanthropy Tank. She is the CEO for Philanthropy Tank. And Amy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Les. Thank you so much. Glad to be on the show today.
Yes, and I'm glad to have you, because what we can talk about is exactly what we see for the future, and you're a very integral part of that, in my mind, with the work that you're doing with Philanthropy Tank. Could you give us a little thumbnail sketch of what Philanthropy Tank is? How did it evolve, and so on?
Certainly. Well, we're relatively young. It's the 7th season of us being an active nonprofit organization, but the concept really came from our co-founders, Evan Duell and Michael Kohner, years ago. And I think you recently interviewed Michael Kohner.
Yes.
Years ago, they had this idea. They were working through a program they were involved with at the time called CAP, which is Chartered Advisors Professionals. It's an accreditation you can receive as a financial advisor. And they were working with high school students. They were creating this opportunity for them to be involved and volunteer. From that, the concept grew. Obviously, Shark Tank was taking off, and that was a program that they each enjoyed. And the thought was, how can we do this in such a way that exactly what you were just mentioning, we can engage young people in understanding how they can be a part of their communities, how they can take an active role in that and make some change, make some impactful change, and address issues that are occurring in their own neighborhoods. And so from that, Philanthropy Tank was born. We are an organization that engages and empowers young people to create social impact programs. And let
me just go step in 1 second. Tell me how you get the kids involved. I want to say this: you have 18 years of experience as a professional philanthropic advisor.
A little bit more. I'm not a financial advisor, but I've been in this professional nonprofit role for 29 years now.
Okay, good. So you're a little bit of an advisor. You're just not an investment advisor.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So and I applaud you for that, because this profession that we're in is really valuable to the community. Tell me, you're now in Baltimore. I know you started in Fort Lauderdale. So take me back a little bit. Let's go back to like last year. How did Philanthropy Tank? How did you solicit the young people to be part of Philanthropy Tank?
Well, we do a lot of outreach efforts, Les. We go out to the schools. We also talk to students who are in non-traditional school environments, alternative schools, home schools. We also worked, you mentioned Baltimore, which we've expanded to that market a couple of years ago now. And we work with organizations and nonprofit agencies that are working with teens, in a lot of cases at-risk teens, underserved teens, that just are looking for ways to direct their energies in a positive way to respond to things that are troubling them. So when we go out to speak with students, we talk just to them about, what is on your mind? What are you passionate about? What, if you had the resources, could you change? Would you want to change? And from that builds these programs, which are, wind up being very impactful in their communities.
How many? Because I was at one of the competitions actually in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
It was very impressive. Was a completely filled audience, a completely filled auditorium, and the youngsters come up and then they make a presentation. How do they get to that point? How do they get to that level of being able to make the presentation to some philanthropists who will be supporting them if they like what they're doing?
Yep, it's a pretty rigorous grant process, if you will. It's an open application cycle. But the application we help them work through, because it can be a little daunting. You're being asked about your concept, how is it different, And if there's already a program that exists, how are you elevating that in the community? Questions about succession planning for the sustainability of the program. And then we always ask, and they submit budgeting, which is what our sharks, if you will, our philanthropist investors evaluate on. And so if they decide that they would like to champion a program, they award the budget to implement and launch that program in the coming year. That's how it works. But the students, we work through their ideas. Sometimes we have really off the ground ideas that we have to rein in. Limited resources sometimes, but it's really interesting to
they get over their skis, huh?
Yeah, to hear their ideas, because it all comes from them and it's student driven. I mean, the adults in the room help guide it, but it's the students running the show.
So how long have you been with Philanthropy Tank now?
This will be my 3rd year with Philanthropy Tank.
Okay. How would you say it's changed over the last since it was organized? What has made it better in your mind?
You know what? A lot is,
and why is it sustainable?
Yep, a lot has changed. I think, to answer the latter part, I think why it's sustainable is it's very pure, and the students are at the heart of it. I think that's what always gets us back to our center, is that we want it to be about the students, and we want it to not be a adult agency inflicted idea. It's really got to come from the student, and then we grow it. How we've grown is, I think we've just matured as an organization. We're getting much better at working with the students and making sure the programs are feasible. And I think from that, and again, with all the other things that come as growing as an organization, structure, governance, board development, really excellent volunteers who are really committed to the mission. All those things, being careful about how we grow and being very aware that we want to never be seen as barging into a community. We want to understand the community, which we did with Baltimore. We met with a lot of people there, but
can you tell me some of the ideas that the kids had in Baltimore?
Yeah, Baltimore, I think that's the thing. It's been interesting coming out of these last couple of years, certainly, as I mentioned, what's on the minds of students. But we're working with Baltimore City, and the students are really deep into some heavy hitting issues. Human trafficking. We have a program called Not for Sale that works with that, engaging young people that have been affected and providing self-esteem and empowerment training. We have a program called Memory Creations. That's a garden that was created, and they're going to be duplicating the gardens from abandoned lots in Baltimore, but it's for victims of gun violence.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
We have less a podcast. They're coming after your job, I think. But we have a podcast of students, and they're talking about issues that, are on the minds of teens. And so a lot of really great programs.
So the involvement, how long does it last for a long time with these kids? Is there, I know that you're doing succession planning with them. Obviously, they're also getting an amazing experience, about financial things in general, which most of them, I don't know. Do you find that the kids today have much financial background when they get into these, when they come to you in the request to become part of this?
Not really. And we actually have a couple programs about financial literacy in the Palm Beach County market that are teaching elementary students on how to budget and plan. I think that's one of the elements that all of our students learn in general. There's not much, in the old days, I used to have those classes in high school. They don't have those anymore. So I think it's interesting to talk to them about being in control of a budget, running a not-for-profit. Those are things that they learn and skills that they learn by going through the program. And
so you're benefiting the students and benefiting the school board in essence, because you're actually providing something that you're paying for through the nonprofit. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, part of our
The services are paid for by the nonprofit, so it's a benefit to the school system, right?
it's part of our funding for programming that we not only start these nonprofits, but we have workshops and curriculum for them to learn various skill sets.
That's amazing. So how many nonprofit organizations would you say you've created that are still in existence and that have been in existence for more than 1 year?
So we've launched 55 programs since we started 7 years or 6 years ago. We're just entering our 7th year, as I mentioned. We have a third of our programs that have gone on to get their 501c3 designations and have gone on to establish their own nonprofits, which we're really proud of. And 85% of our programs that we started are still active and running, years later. We're starting to see our first class of alumni of people that have, gone through high school, gone through college, and now they themselves are entering the nonprofit scene as a professional, whether that's a board member, volunteer, or a paid job. They're now getting involved with the community. So we're growing our new nonprofit leaders.
So you're basically, these kids are becoming nonprofit business people.
Exactly.
And so
that's what we want to see.
Yeah, exactly. And that way it doesn't have to rely on outside sources. It can if people support what they do, they'll be able to raise the money that they need. I don't know how many of these are endowed. Are there any there that are working on endowing themselves? Do they understand the principle of endowment?
They understand the principle, and that's probably not at this point. But, is that the future of what we do? Potentially, yes. I think, again, we're now going through that phase that we have alumni and we're looking at linkages to internships and job placement. And so that's kind of the next phase of Philanthropy Tank. And I think going deeper as well. But, we'd like to see that come into the full circle of what we do. But not quite yet.
Okay. So I must commend you. And again, the idea, Shark Tank, I remember the very first time it was on the air, I had actually a client that was trying to sell something on Shark Tank. I think he was successful, but I don't know how long it lasted. But in any case, that program has gotten quite a lot of popularity, especially among young people. A lot of the people that approach them sometimes are young people. And so Philanthropy Tank makes a lot of sense. And the involvement in the way that you're approaching it, where you have the ideas of the children, not children, but the young people who are driving this, and they're concerned about what they think is important, and they get other people to agree with them, I guess, and that's how they start a nucleus of a Philanthropy Tank contestant. Is that how that works?
That is, yes, exactly how it works. Because I think the root of the program is, again, their passion, their interest in furthering their idea. That's what's so critical, again, that we don't want it to feel like an extracurricular assignment that's being put upon them. This has to really be from them to want to stick with it. And to, so again, you find students who are passionate about the environment, passionate about their neighbors, passionate about, sports. I mean, it really, in a number of ways, it's interesting how the programs evolve. And when I mentioned sports, it was somebody who realized through their experience that not everyone gets the opportunity to play sports or have access to sports equipment or materials or uniforms or shoes. And that's how that, again, it's making that connection for them to understand what they can provide to the community. And that one student now has a working relationship with all the Boys and Girls Clubs. And so the partnerships that come from this, we want them to learn how to network, how to connect, how to be creative and innovative in resources. And, they're learning important business skills as well along the way.
So would you say this is a humanities course? The You know, we're all about human kindness here. This is Route 664, the road to human kindness. Would you say that what you're seeing in these young people epitomizes that?
Absolutely, without question. I think that's what's good to see, creating empathy, understanding others that don't have it in the same, don't have things, don't have resources, students that themselves don't have resources and don't have opportunities, being given those opportunities and seeing how they can help others. It's a great life lesson, and I think it is teaching human kindness. It is talking about how you can make that difference and feel a part of it and not feel like you have to be in the back seat, to be able to be in the driver's seat in this case and really control the direction and the trajectory of these programs has been life-changing. And we call these change makers. They themselves are making change, but they are being changed through the process.
Mm-hmm. And they're part of the quantum change that
Exactly.
we expect to happen. And so I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. My guest is Amy Brand. Amy is the CEO of Philanthropy Tank, which is based in West Palm Beach and is also now expanding to Baltimore, has expanded to Baltimore. We would actually like to expand it here into Dade County. So how can folks find out more about Philanthropy Tank?
Sure. Visit our website, philanthropytank.org. You'll see all of our student programs, and you can learn how you can get involved. We're always looking for mentors and coaches, and we hope to be expanding to an area soon near you.
Good. And we would like to put Philanthropy Tank on our site as part of our what we support as well. So we'll work towards that end. Thank you again, Amy, for being with us on Route 664, the road to human kindness. And certainly Philanthropy Tank is one of the bridges that'll get us there quickest and will help our young people to feel better about this wonderful world that we live in. So thanks again, Amy, for all the work that you do.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Why would a young person be concerned about national debt? Well, the more the debt increases, the greater the interest payment will be at some point. Right now, the interest rates are very low, so nobody's really feeling the effect of that national debt. But if the interest rates were to go up, that means that the cost to carry, because debt means that you have to pay for it. You're paying for money, basically. When you go in debt to buy a car or buy a home, you're paying for that use of the money. And you pay a small amount of interest to be able to get a large sum of money to be able to accomplish certain things, like buying a car, like buying a home. So the debt has some consequences to it. Obviously, if you get to the point where you can't pay your debt, that's a problem. That's why people end up in bankruptcy, because they can't afford the debt that they have. We don't want the country to go into that bankruptcy category, because if you have more debt than you have assets, or you have more debt than you have a way to solve the debt, that means that you're basically upside down, and that's what is called bankruptcy, because you don't have the assets to pay off your debts. So the government has the ability to print money, and that comes back to the other side of this, which was inflation. When the government prints money, it puts out more money into the circulation, and that money then has less value because there's more of it. It kind of dilutes the value of the money. So just from let's just recap what your financial education has been this morning. You're dealing with low birth rate, going to affect Social Security, something to be concerned about.
Less people to contribute to the coffers.
Correct. Inflation, meaning that the dollar will be worth less, which means that you have to do something to make your dollar worth more and protect as much of that dollar's value as you can. And then finally, how do we solve the national debt? And one of the things that we talk about on the program is how powerful social secharity is in solving those problems. It's almost like a superpower.
Charity is king.
Charity is king is true. Speaking of charity and the good things that charity can do and charitable organizations can do, our first guest is Nancy Robin. Nancy is the executive director of the Broward Habitat for Humanity. Good morning. How are you, Nancy?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's really good to be with you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clear.
And
so,
I was just going to say, Les, that the topics that you and Wanda are talking about pertain to every aspect of Habitat for Humanity. And, when you talk about inflation, when you talk about empowerment and financial education, when you talk about the impact potentially on interest rates, be them low, be them high, and on government reliance, it all just dovetails so much into the need for charity and the work that we do, and how all those factors come into play so dramatically.
Well, why did Habitat for Humanity get started? What was the impetus behind that? I was reading a little bit about it. The gentleman in 1942, he bought a farm and had some issues on that farm. And why don't you take us? You have a little bit of time to tell us that story.
Yeah. So I find the story absolutely fascinating. Habitat really was born out of the civil rights movement. There was a preacher, a white preacher by the name of Clarence Jordan, who had a farm in Quintanilla, and it was, I don't know, you could call it, I hate to sound radical, but, a kibbutz, a commune, but it was black and whites living together, nice. Working for an equal wage and building this farm. And when the community, they would sell their produce, and ultimately they were boycotted, they were shot upon, they were burned, they were closed out. And Clarence Jordan, went on to write a Bible called the Cottonwood Bible, which, really preached to people of the South the real interpretation of the Bible. But at the same time, there was a guy named Millard Fuller, who was an attorney. He was, he was determined to make $1 million before he hit 30, and he did. Mm-hmm. He did so really at the expense of his wife and his family. And his wife came to him, and he met with her on the steps in front of the law office in New York, and she said, "This is not working for me." And at that point, they decided to sell their worldly possessions and really look at how they could make a difference in the world. And they had known Clarence Jordan, went to Quintanilla, and devised this plan, which is really a brilliant model in economic empowerment. It was their vision to take it internationally. Habitat does operate in 70 countries internationally, but their experiment started in the United States. And we call it the Fund for Humanity. Ultimately, it's the community coming together. Those who desire home ownership work to build their house and the homes of their neighbors, and at the end of the day, receive an interest-free mortgage because of donors. Then the funds from that interest-free mortgage go on so that the folks who benefited from the subsidy that made that mortgage available with no interest, they're actually giving to the next. It's the gift that never stops giving, and those funds are used to help the next family.
So this was obviously this was a huge undertaking in the minds of the original founder, who really thought very big. He was trying to make a change in the world. And how effective has that been now? Let's go back for a second. If somebody, does somebody have to make an application to get a home built for them? You're building homes for people using volunteer labor for the most part, and also paid labor, obviously. So you have to raise money to be able to pay for those things. But when somebody is wanting to be part of Habitat for Humanity as a recipient, what do they have to do?
Yeah, the way it plays out today is there's 1,284 grassroots affiliates across the country, and I represent Broward County, Florida. We build around 20 to 30 homes a year. We also do home preservation. But for somebody who, and let me just preface, only 12% of our population here, only 12% can afford the average median price home. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is that our economy is hospitality driven. It's very service based. So the majority of our population cannot afford the dream of homeownership. So for those that are interested, they would go to our website, www.habitatbroward.org. You can fill out a pre-application, find out if you qualify or not. If you do qualify, you'll be invited to fill out an application. You'll have an interview. You'll be formally notified whether you're in the program or not. You will then at that point start working on building your home and that of your neighbor. There's education. But, in about a year, you will have a brand new home and the dream of homeownership along with a mortgage. I'm
sorry to interrupt you, but is there an educational program for the new homeowner as well, as far as how to deal with debt and how to deal with, because you can't just have the debt and not get it paid. So they have to be able to be financially secure in some way.
Yeah, it's interesting, Les, when you're talking about financial education, when you and Wanda open the show, that really is the key to empowerment. We have a very robust educational program that starts really with visioning what are your dreams, and goes into all those components of budgeting, understanding your credit report, to the nitty gritty of home maintenance and understanding economical ways to maintain and really a lot of our homeowners after building their home can do a lot of the repairs that come with it themselves. But
do you have a continuing stewardship arrangement with the homeowner? Do you have you track them once you've done that? Once you build a home for them?
Yeah, really great question. We actually are the servicer. So we stay in their lives for a long period of time in that the payments are coming to us. So, there's, it's when Habitat, when you achieve that home ownership, you are just like anybody else that achieves the dream of homeownership. It's not a rental program. It's not a landlord program. It's not a we take care of you for the rest of your life program. This is financial empowerment. Today it's impossible for so many to come up with that down payment. It's impossible to, at today's market rates of homes, to find a home with an affordable payment. So, this is a home ownership program, and we serve teachers, nurses, government workers. We serve, an educated population that just wants a shot at the American dream.
So if you're in Broward County and obviously land values in Broward County are pretty high for the most part. So what is why is it difficult for you to find places to build?
So Broward is an interesting area in that we're very, and I thank you for that question, in that we're very land scarce. We are an urbanizing market. There's a need for home preservation and there's a need for additional housing stock. If there is anybody listening that is interested in getting involved, we need all the help that we can get with land, particularly here, given the work that we do. But land is a precious, precious commodity here.
As a nonprofit organization, how does that work?
A number of ways. So one is we work closely with municipalities and, occasionally municipalities have vacant infill lots. There's not a lot of land left that municipalities have, but we do partner with municipalities to develop that land. We're a great partner because we leverage a dollar like no other. We really are not government subsidized. We're raising money privately. So we're a great partner for municipalities. We do buy land. And, the only way that we're able to buy land is, the generosity of others who make this work possible.
Mm-hmm. And generosity of others means that you have donors who support you, who support your organization, who believe in your mission and your vision. But fundraising is not as easy as it used to be. I'm sure that it's difficult because there's a lot of competition. And then what was the effect of COVID on all of this?
COVID increased giving in some respects, but increased giving on the basic needs. Who is hungry and who is homeless? where there was a need for disaster intervention, I think it was beautiful the way we saw America pull together that way. But when it comes to sustaining long-term goals, it's a challenge, especially for an organization like us that is a volunteer army and there's no volunteers. The giving component is more important than ever. And the work that you do is so significant because a lot of people don't realize that giving can take many forms.
Mm-hmm. Well, the volunteers that you get to build your homes, obviously, that's also a commodity that must have been very scarce during COVID-19. If somebody wants to volunteer to build a home, how do they do that?
Again, our website, www.habitatbroward.org. You can pull up the calendar, sign up, and come on out. I go undercover. I find it cathartic. There's a couple construction experiences that I just personally enjoy doing. It's not my background, so I'm not really good at construction, but anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Yeah. So I was out the Saturday before last doing a test that we call dry in, and it is putting down the tar paper to protect the roof, and you hammer nails with these little metal bins, which whoever is in construction is probably laughing at how I'm slaughtering the description, but it's a beautiful experience getting out there with other like-minded people.
You get a lot of young people, Nancy?
It's every age, background. It's the mission statement is, we don't just build homes, we build community and hope. And it's indescribable the feeling you get. I never knew a construction site could be spiritual. Habitat is very inclusive. It's all walks of life coming together. And I just can't emphasize enough the experience of coming out and doing that.
Well, the work that you're doing is the height of what we're discussing here when we talk about social charity and changing the world and endowing America. Obviously, we'd love to be able to endow all of the nonprofit organizations that are doing the kind of work that you are. I mean, it goes back. This is not a new concept. I mean, in the old days when a barn burned down, the people would come and build the barn. So you're basically rebuilding people's barns with the community's help, and it's a very spiritual experience. And you don't have to give money. You can also give your time by volunteering. But if you want to give money
or land,
Nancy will help you with that for sure. So Nancy, I'm really happy to have you on board this morning. Thank you for joining us here on Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, and your organization is the epitome of that. So we'd like to help you as much as we can.
Thank you for the work you're doing. Pleasure being with you.
Great day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep.
Nice. Building houses for everybody. I love that their mission is putting God's love into action, which is really nice.
Yeah, love and human kindness is what we're all about. Yeah. So, I like that kind of work.